Almost all of them were used for transatlantic slave trade. But the first one is the one at Elmina. It was built around 1482 by Portuguese under the leadership of one Don Diego Giazambuja. We have one in Accra, Osu Castle. That was built 1661 by the Danish. This very one was built by the British in 1665. So if you look at the age, this one is the youngest among the three. This one was built at a time, slave trade, that we're coming to talk about today, started in Africa for close to 200 years already. And it was at its peak. Because slavery started, you are welcome again in the group. Slavery started at Elmina Castle, and not this one. It was during the 1500, when in the history of the whole world, there was this man called Christopher Columbus. He said he discovered the Americas. So the Spanish people moved from Europe to those places and established their plantations where they needed labor to work. So they tried to use the local people, called the Native Americans, the Red Indians, to work. But according to the Europeans, they said they were not strong and they were dying from diseases. So there was a Catholic bishop. His name was Bartolomeo de las Casas. He suggested to the Spanish to look for alternative sources of labor to replace the Red Indians. What happened was that even before the start of the transatlantic slave trade, which Europeans came to build castles like this along the coast of West Africa, there was what we call the trans-Saharan trade, which the Arabs took some blacks through the Saharan desert to Europe. So some of those people were taken from Europe, especially Spain and Lisbon, to the Americas, and they tried them, and they proved to be physically strong. So at first, the Europeans were taking blacks from Europe to their farm to work for them. But with time, the Africans in Europe got finished because they were not many. So they had to come back to Africa again to take the blacks to the plantations. And that was the time Portuguese built Elmina Castle, which is not far from here. The Portuguese came to Elmina in search of gold because this country was called Gold Coast before. So the gold brought the European. That was a major factor why Europeans came. The Portuguese were the first. The Portuguese who were there were given a license by the Spanish called the ASEAN to legally transport Africans from Elmina to the Americas. So in West Africa, Portuguese initiated the whole thing. They were there for 150 years, buying and selling black people. Then Dutch attacked them somewhere 1637. So Dutch were at Elmina for about 50 years before British got here. When British got here, Dutch were at Elmina occupied this land temporarily. So English fought Dutch people. That happened 1663-64. When the British got the land, they started the development to develop this castle. They built the castle in stages using cheap African labor. And the way they designed it, the dungeons like this alone had the capacity to hold 1,300 enslaved Africans at one time. Men were here 1,000, separated from 300 million. They stay in the dungeon 2 weeks minimum to 3 months maximum. All depends on their ships. But 1807, British came out with a law, said they stopped slave trade. That was led by one William Wilberforce. 1814, that is passed a law in Holland. But from then to 1860, Africa, slavery did not stop. It continued for well over 40 years. So 1860, the whole thing stopped. So this structure was used as a colonial administrative center. And English controlled the castles to the time we gained independence, the 6th March 1957, before we moved the British out of the castle. So the castle as at now, it is 353 years old as at now. Elmina the first is about 536 years old. But before the castle was built like this, in 1665, it will interest you to know that this piece of land changed hands several times. Now, Swedish were the first people to occupy this piece of land. They came around 1654. They built a timber structure called Fort Karlsborg. They were trading in gold and ivory. So while they were here in search of gold, Danes came from Europe to defeat the Swiss here. They were here for the same purpose, gold. So while the Danes were here, Dutch came to attack the Danes again. So when the Danes were defeated, the Danes went to build a castle in Accra called Osu Castle. So now Dutch thought they conquered everybody. 1664, British attacked the Dutch. So when the British got the land and they built the castle, they knew some others would come to fight with them. So they brought the cannons for defense. That was why English stayed for a longer time. Nobody defeated them. They were strong military. So those who came out after British were not successful. And before we started, we go to the dungeons. You have to understand clearly that, or let me make it known to you that, as a matter of fact, when slavery started in Africa, Portuguese were involved, Dutch, British, Danes, even the Germans and French. They were all into the slave trade. Europeans alone on their own could not have captured all the millions of Africans. But that is also not to tell you that Africans sold their own people. It was a trade, demand and supply. So let's see how the people were brought in. Nobody volunteered. Physically, Europeans captured some using guns. Europeans worked with some Africans to capture other Africans. There were some collaborators. There were other Africans called slave raiders, like armed robbers of today. Those people, Europeans identified them, so they gave them guns, they gave them champagne, they gave them tobacco, second-hand clothing, smoking pipes. And our system of trading was better. So before you accept their guns, it means you have to go all out and go and bring somebody to come and pay. So these people were raiding villages at gunpoint, kidnapping some Africans, bringing them to Europeans in exchange for their goods. And the last one that brought about half of the Africans was intertribal wars, ethnic conflict. If you talk about war, brothers and sisters, and talk of weapon, we can fight with our hands like this. But I don't think that will be war. That will be some misunderstanding, or maybe fighting for money, like Mayweather and his people. We have to understand also that before Europeans came to Africa in 1471, which was the Portuguese Africa, there was nothing like today's Ghana, or Nigeria, or Burkina Faso. We had kingdoms and empires. For that matter, the Africans govern themselves. So they fight each other. Sometimes they fight by boundary. Sometimes they fight about piece of land they perceive to be rich of gold or diamond. But before Europeans came, Africans on this land then go to wars with weapons like arrow or spear. And they go to war with these things. After a long fight, one tribe will lose. The losers will be taken as domestic slaves or indentured servants. Those people, to large extent, they had some amount of freedom. They could marry, raise free children. They could acquire property. Later, they were integrated into the family system. They were not kept in buildings like this. They were free people in society. And I believe that system of slavery has been with humans since time immemorial. Ancient Rome, Egypt, that kind of thing. Let me give an example. In Ghana, I can tell you on authority that not long ago, if you own somebody, you hasn't got that money to pay, you can allow your son, your daughter, or even your wife to go and work for that person for a number of years just to pay the debts. My brother, do you remember that system? Thank you. So the period of which you work, you are a slave. You can be with the people for 20 years, but they know that you are not part of them. If you are working like that, and you are a woman and you are beautiful with a good character, then somebody from the master's family should get married to you. Automatically, you free yourself from being a slave to part of the family. Because there's no way I can make my wife a slave. My brother can also not be a slave. So before Europeans came, Africa, we had this type of system on the continent. But when they came, immediately the situation changed. Immediately they capitalized on our system. So they brought guns. And we know what the guns can do. They brought champagne, tobacco, those things. These things, if you like, were imposed on African leaders who were the chiefs. And the chiefs were ruling, they were to pay. There was no president at that time. And there was no money, it was still barter. So let's say I'm a leader of one tribe, a chief. I have 100 followers. This man is also the same, has a chief, has followers. You same. We fight ourselves already using arrow. And we take our people as domestic slaves. But now Europeans have come to give us guns. And they will tell us we need the guns to protect ourselves, fight our neighbors, take their everything. So, so they give you the guns, the only option available is to go and fight and bring some people to them. So this intensified wars across the length and breadth of Africa. Because if you refuse to fight as a chief, others will come and fight you. So the more they go to the war, the more they capture some innocent men and women in exchange for European goods. These were the strategies. And to me, up to today, the system hasn't changed.
Thank you, my brother, for making that analogy.
To me, up to now, the system hasn't changed much. It's still in place, but in a modernized way. And they were not only Ghanaians of today. Some from Ghana, southern part. Some came from the northern belts. Some came from 3 northern regions. Some came from Togo, Burkina Faso, Nigeria. There are places in Ghana like Salaga in the northern part of the country. Sunday Map to Koro. Those were market centers where after the wars they were taken to, they gathered them. So when they get a huge number like 100 or more, and they put them in chains, they start walking from Salaga. Most of you know Salaga. It's far from here. If you are driving from Cape Coast to Salaga, it's about 16 hours non-stop. They walked from Salaga through Kumasi. When they got to Asima, so they had a stopover. There they would bath. They would give them food to eat to regain some lost energy because they might have worked for 3-4 months. They do all manner of operations there. From there, when they arrived in the castle, they were taken to a place called Palava. That was the auctioning block. After auctioning, they would run them. They would put them here for 2 weeks to 3 months, waiting for ships. So this is in a way a brief introduction before we begin our walk. Any question?
So some became light. Some of them became light. And these original bricks, remember these bricks were brought from England. Because as of that time, European ships came here empty. So use these bricks to balance the ships to Africa. So go in East Africa is balance away. And they had nothing like a toilet facility. There was no urine for the Africans. So anytime they wanted to go to toilet, they would do it here. If they want to urinate the same place, others would vomit. And they were here on the bare floor from 2 weeks to 3 months. These trenches were constructed as their urinal. And when they urinate, the urine will run through into the sea. But it got to a time that some of the Africans started fighting the British. They wanted to free themselves. So they were fighting. Those doing that, British identified them and brought them from the other dimensions to this place. So they created a door at the entrance. So they called this room a strong chamber. So British were not coming to claim a solid waste. So the waste started piling. It started from one leg to the other, to the other. It got to a time that the bricks was covered. The waste came up like cake. And they were inside. So I want to do something from here. My sister, those here, can you move this way a bit? If I start. Go back to where you were, right? Thank you. Now, if you look on the wall that way, I see some lines, the white lines, towards down. Because they stopped cleaning the waste, the solid waste rose or piled to the bottom of the mountains, got to the height like this. It reached this level. It reached the bottom of the mountains.
Oh my God.
This thing was covered. But 1974, only 74, when University of Ghana Archaeological Department came to do excavation here before they found the building materials. That was when back the war. So if you were to come here before 74, you wouldn't see this. You see solid waste. But they left a portion, the waste. No one is still here. So we are going to see. So I'll move some of you. Don't be disturbed. The 6 people here, can you move this way? Now, if you look at this place, you can't see the bricks here. But around you can see the bricks. This is waste. This is solid waste.
Wow.
The whole floor was like this before.
Wow.
But in 74, when they did the excavation exercise, they cleared the waste here. They left this one for generations yet unborn to come and see. It was tested and it proved that it had urine, toilet, blood, and other things. So this is human waste. But because it's been a long time, it has changed like an ordinary soil. So many died. Those who died, nobody was buried. They tied stone onto their waist, then they dumped them into the sea. They eat once in a day, sometimes twice.